Good morning, everybody. We are starting now with the second session of the conference with a special workshop dedicated to digital transformation for user engagement in cultural heritage, a workshop organized by different organizations, I would say, and projects. But it is chaired by our good friend Antonella Fresa from Italy, and Fred Truyen, Sofie Taes, as well as Valentina Paci. And from Europeana, we have a replacement. We had Julia, but because of health issues, she has been replaced. Now, I will start by giving the word to Antonella. Antonella, you are here?
Yes, I am with you. I'm listening at your kind welcome. Thank you, Marinos. I would like to share the screen if you agree, so we can review together the agenda of the day. Just a second, let me see if everything works.
We can see your presentation, Antonella.
Yes?
Yes, and we can hear you very well.
Okay, thank you very much. So the idea of this workshop is to review some successful cases that have progressed our knowledge, our experience, lessons learned, and good practice on user engagement, participatory approaches, everything that has to do with the new way to interpret the research on cultural heritage. Yesterday we had a fantastic workshop on cultural tourism, where participation and user engagement and collaboration and co-creation has been the keywords. Today we continue with the focus on cultural heritage. So the valuing of heritage that is preserved in museums, libraries, archives, and the digital archives. The digital transformation is completely changing the way and adding new features and new possibilities, and today we will review. First, a project that ran until September last year, that is a project in the family of Europeana. The most of what we will discuss today is informed and shaped around Europeana. And this project ran until September last year, and it has been a project looking inside Europeana for contents depicting the kaleidoscope of the 50s in Europe. The 50s have been a period of transformation and multiple ways of living, a transformation of the society after the terrible experience of the war. I was born in the 50s, so I have a memory of the 10 years after the 50s, because during the 50s I was still rather young. But it was really a very composite period. In this project, yes.
Thank you, please. Sorry for that. If you can go, please, to the presentation mode at your, yes, PowerPoint application.
But I think I am. I think I am.
No. You are.
No, but but it's another screen that is shared. We see the PowerPoint itself.
Just a second. So it is the share of the screen. Just a second. Interrupt. Just a second. I share a new kind of screen. Seleziono una finestra, un'applicazione. I'm selecting the application.
Antonella?
I share and I go to the presentation mode.
Ok, Antonella?
Yes.
Vai in abilita modifica e poi parti in presentazione. Talvolta non funziona.
Abilita modifica. Yes. Okay. It's PowerPoint that was not enabled for the modification. Yes. Yesterday I thought that tomorrow I will be ready to share my screen without problems. No, not yet. So just a second. Now I didn't put this, no, this, and I have to share the screen. Not yet. Okay, now?
Can you please? Yes, that's
Does it work?
It's okay. It's okay.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. So for everybody who has to share presentations, remember that first you have to enable the modification in PowerPoint, otherwise it doesn't work. Thank you, Julia, for your help. The first case is 50s in Europe. This will be presented by Truyen, professor at KU11, who has been the coordinator of the project, and he is also the president of Photoconsortium. Photoconsortium is the association that is organizing this workshop, and it is one of the accredited aggregator of Europeana. The second case that will be presented by Professor Marinos Ioannides, our host in Euromed, is the case of one of the 11 workshops, co-creation events that have been organized in the frame of We Are Europe for Culture. We Are Europe for Culture has been a project that ended in February this year, and We Are Europe for Culture is a continuation, a follow-up of the 2018 European Year of Cultural Heritage. The European Commission had followed the experience of 2018, and during the whole period of 2019, from January to February 2020, we ran 11 workshops, and these workshops were organized in 11 different countries all over Europe with local people. Marinos will tell us about the experience in Nicosia. Very nicely, Europeana Foundation agreed to participate in the workshop with a presentation about the activities for empowering the community in the experience of a cultural heritage. Unfortunately, Julia is not able to join us, and I send my best wishes to Julia. Ariadna is on her place to talk about the Europeana Foundation experiences. Please, Ariadna, send our wishes to Julia. And eventually, Pagode. Pagode is the last funded generic service project in Europeana, and Europeana XX, we call it XX, but in effect is Europeana 20th, that is the century of change. These two projects have been funded in the last call of the Connecting Europe facility of the European Commission. And they they are the last generic service projects contributing to the development and improvement of the Europeana initiative. This will be presented by Sofie Taes. Sofie is a researcher at KU Leuven and also works for Photoconsortium. Sofie will tell us about metadata and storytelling in the experiences of Pagode and Europeana 20th century of change. And I would like to mention you because she is not listed in the speakers, but she has been the creator, the animator, and the ghost creator of this workshop, Valentina Bachi. Valentina is a full employee at Photoconsortium Association. She is the soul of Photoconsortium. Without her, all the Photoconsortium initiatives would collapse immediately. So thank you, Valentina, for your dedication to this event. And now I will leave the floor immediately to the first speaker because the time is very compressed today. Fred, the floor is yours. Would you like that I go through the presentations, or would you like to share your screen?
No, it's easier if you keep managing the slides. I will say next slide for.
Okay, perfect.
And so indeed, as Antonella already said, I'm from KU Leuven, and I'm also the president of Photoconsortium. So next slide, indeed, we can move to the next slide. Yes. The 50s in Europe was a project where we tried to understand a little bit the identity of the 50s, how it lives on in memories, and how it could appeal to an audience today. So maybe the next slide. So the motivation was, in fact, that our impression is that current generations in Europe have lost a bit touch with the 50s, which were at the roots of the European Union, and started off, in fact, what would become the European Union as it is today, as a kind of post-war dream. And for many citizens of Europe today, this is a far memory because they were born much later or migrated into Europe later. So it's difficult for them to assess what drove the founders of the European Union. And so we wanted to show from photo collections what the dreams, the fears, the concerns were of citizens across Europe. Not only highlighting East and West divides, but there were also North and South divides that were at play. And so as experts in photography, we tried not only to tell these stories, but also to look into how was this translated in what we could call the visual memory or the visual identity of the 50s. The project responded to a call on user engagement, so we decided to do a lot of workshops engaging users. We did a rephotography workshop, for example, and we did crowdsourcing for that. Next slide, please. One of the major outputs is a traveling exhibition that you also can find online on Europeana and on the Photoconsortium website. So if you type Photoconsortium, you will find links to this exhibition, Blue Skies, Red Panic, about the 50s in Europe. And this is also a physical exhibition that travels through Europe. And next showing will be in the course of this year. Next slide, please, indeed. As for the visual similarity, we tried first in a qualitative method in a workshop with experts to define certain themes, aspects, formats that we found in the 50s photography, mostly looking not as much to art photography, but to documentary photography and news photography, also heritage collections from Europeana and from Photoconsortium members. And we tried to find colors, styles, fashion, attitudes that would be typical for the 50s as we remember it. So there is the way people in the 50s wanted to express themselves, how they, in their lifestyle, wanted to show what their dreams were. There is, of course, the memory that we have of the 50s, which is tainted by a long history afterwards. And there is the interpretation that we now want to give to these 50s in a new context. Next slide, please. Now, we developed a demonstrator of an automatic tagging algorithm that can assign certain concepts and that can find similar images depending on the style properties in the photo. And here you see a demonstrator of that. Next slide, please. These algorithmic data will be used to enrich metadata. And these enriched metadata we can validate through crowdsourcing. And you see here an example of the crowdsourcing campaigns that we ran, where we asked people to annotate images, annotating using linked open data. So it's not your free impression of what is on the photo. You will select existing keywords from linked open data. And that makes these collections searchable and interoperable and integratable. And that's quite important. So we think that is a future of metadata development, that you work with experts on refining linked open data and then validate those by users and then couple this to automated recognition and tagging. Next slide, please. And so this brings me to our Mooc. I'll post the link to the Mooc in the chat. You can also find it if you just type KU Leuven X, then you find all the Moocs at KU Leuven. The whole idea was to make a Mooc for CHI educators. So many people here around the table, I think, have an educational mission also for heritage. So it is also targeted to you or to some of your colleagues. It is also targeted to universities and university students. And the Mooc is set up as an interaction between experts in the field, in the institutions, and the academics. Next slide, please. The contents of the Mooc, it's a collaboration with a project on dance that we worked together with. And so we have a module, a very interesting module on user engagement for CHIs with worthwhile academic outputs there. And then we have a whole module on 1950s photography with really top experts explaining you certain aspects of that photography and also highlights from our exhibitions. We have a module on museums, on dance, on material and immaterial cultural heritage, and on historical dance. Next slide, please. The Mooc was self-paced. We did already 2 runs, and we will schedule a new run probably in the autumn and otherwise in the next spring. So we will repeat this Mooc availability, each year. Up to now, we had 2,000 enrollments, of which 130 wanted a certificate for the MOOC, and that, in fact, the smaller number is the most important one, because this is really training of CHI professionals. And I have to move on, I think. So you see here some numbers. Next slide. It was also a very good geographical spread. So we reached with this MOOC people well outside Europe. Next slide, please. And the highlights, you will find really top professionals like our colleague John Ballion from Top Photo in the UK. Top Photo is a very large archive managing the heritage of John Topham and the famous documentary photographer. And there's also a news photography agency. And John is an expert in photographic techniques, so he explains you the photos of the 50s so that you maybe with some training can recognize a photo of the 50s when you see one. Next slide, please. We have a study by CRDI. This is an expert lab in Catalonia on family photos. Next slide, please. We have Sofie Taes, the curator of almost all of the exhibitions of Photoconsortium. Sofie is the digital curator of all these exhibitions. And then there is the magic of Piero Masi from Photoconsortium, who turns this into physical exhibitions. And that is really the expertise of Photoconsortium to bring digital curation together with physical curation. So if you want to understand more of that, listen to the videos of Sofie on our MOOC. Next slide, please. I think we are done. And so I give the floor to Marinos for the next talk.
Thank you very much, Fred. I think the attendees at the workshop can understand the richness of the work that has been conducted in Kaleidoscope. And I think that something that you mentioned about the experience of a Kaleidoscope is very close to the actuality of what we hear in the news, the divides that have been characterized the study we conducted in Kaleidoscope and that are still the cause of our difficulties. Divides between Europe and the rest of the world, divides within the other powers, and we are with interest listening at the divide in America between the red and the blue. So divides is something that is very touching us in this moment. But from the 50s to the contemporaneity and the past as well, this bridge between the past and the today's. So Marino, the floor is yours, and we will hear about We Are Europe for Culture in Nicosia.
Thank you, Antonella. I will go and give you a short overview of this, what we are doing since the time when we started. If you can please unshare your screen. So, yes, thank you. So I will share my screen. It's a small video, 4.5 minutes long, which is showing our story and our involvement since we started being actively involved in this area. 2013, we were established, and one of our mission was with this slogan, described under this slogan: behind us is the memory of our parents, in front of us are the eyes of our children, collecting, preserving, protecting, but also giving free access to this part of the memory. So it was a project, EU project, our first one project, Low Cloud, and which gave us the opportunity, actually enabled us to start collecting content. And we collected the content, one of the best, the one which is in our houses, in our repositories. We digitize that and we give free access via Europeana to the rest of the world. We work with all the communities, with all the villages, with all the municipalities on the island. I think this approach never happened before in any other member state in the European Union. And you see here a part of the content collected on that time. All this, what you see here, is also available at the Europeana. It's a unique content, and of course, ministries, and not only municipalities, NGOs, but also private galleries and private museums were actively involved. Unique moments of our hidden story came up. And you see here all over these images, the evolution of the memory or of the evolution of the story of Cyprus. It is something very unique. And now to our project here, the time when we started our event, we went out to the public, we asked them, please come, please share, and they came. We were surprised to see this kind of response. We collected a lot of material, and because I see now not only Fred, but also Rob are online, I would like to send a message, because both of you are sitting at the board of Europeana. We need to handle the issue of the great challenge of harvesting content to Europeana. There is a lot of content, unique content, which has to be harvested. It's in the queue, and it has to be very soon in Europeana. So let's see what we can do there too. You see here, all this, what you experience now doesn't exist in Cyprus, yeah? It's gone, it's over, it's forgotten sometimes, and it is kept in the photo albums of the different individual persons. Mines disappeared also. We don't have any more mines in Cyprus. Medieval monuments, they are not anymore here with us. They are, you see another one image here from the mine time period. And something which is very unique, and it's good that Europeana experienced that, but also you, Fred, when we went to the municipalities, when we went to the different villages and all the other organizations and asked them, look, this is the way forward, it's free of charge, it doesn't cost you anything, it still doesn't cost them anything. This is the contribution of the university, of our lab, of the UNESCO chair to the society, to the local community here in Cyprus. We ask them, look, at least acknowledge this, what we do, with the logo of Europeana and the logo of the university or the lab on your website, and the slogan of this, what you do, and please promote that. And you see here, from the municipality of Aradipu, is a big one, one of the biggest in Cyprus. You see the logo of Europeana, the logo of the lab, the logo of the form of the previous project. And here the slogan behind us is the memory of our fathers, in front of us, the eyes of our children, yeah? But that's one example. And here are several other municipalities which are promoting this, what we do, yeah? It is amazing. It started, as I mentioned to you, in 2013, and it is continuing. And this, what we want to do is to create, actually, with this initiative, the photo album of Cyprus. The population of Cyprus is almost 1 million. It's not difficult. It's not easy. It needs time. And of course, we are, I think, in the correct way to do that. We need the help and support and full cooperation from Europeana to bring the content online. And it will be nice if by Christmas or even earlier than Christmas, we have it online. This year is a special year for Cyprus. Is the 16th anniversary of our independence. And we wanted actually to share all this memory, part of our identity with the rest of the world, and in a special celebration. Unfortunately, we didn't manage because the content is not in Europeana, and that's it will be nice if we manage to have it over there. I am one of the few people who are saying that if in the European Union there is a success story to show and be proud as a European taxpayer, then it's Europeana. And therefore we need to show actually really what we have as a success story, because there is where we show and present in an excellent way the united in diversity. Thank you very much. Antonella, the floor is yours.
Yes, there is always a second to restart the video and the audio that seems to say that the people are not around. Thank you very much, Marinos. Again, a large number, an incredible richness of images that are source for research, interpretation, and emotions and entertainment. So this connection between scholarly and civic engagement in cultural heritage is well demonstrated in this project. I will go to the next speaker now. And okay, we are moving to the voice of Europeana Foundation. You know that Europeana is an initiative of the European Commission, and there is an operator, a body that is in charge of running the big activities that are around the existence of the Europeana portal, and this operator is Europeana Foundation. We are all involved in a way or another in the activities of Europeana Foundation, because there is the foundation itself with its bodies that are including representatives of other bodies that have been created around the foundation to support the collaboration with the aggregators on one side, the Europeana Aggregators Forum, and this is the group of the organizations such as Photoconsortium, but many more, both at domain level and at the national level, that are aggregating contents, and the users of Europeana. So the voice of Europeana is very articulated, and I'm very happy about the participation of Ariadna in this workshop. I leave the floor to you to tell us just one slide of the enormous work that the Foundation is doing for us. Thank you, Ariadna. Would you like that I take the lead of the presentation as I did for Fred?
So yeah, was Fred controlling the screen?
No, I did, and he was telling me next slide.
Okay, so yeah, we can do that because I see I cannot ask for the control of the screen.
Okay.
So thank you very much, Antonella, and to the and for the invitation. Julia is very sorry to not be able to participate, and I will do my best to try to cover what she wanted to share with all of you today. In particular, maybe not so much the activities activities similar to the ones that you were the panelists were describing just now. I think I would particularly like to focus on why Europeana considers it so important to raise capacity across the cultural heritage sector, how we are currently doing that, and some of the next steps we have in mind for the coming months and years. After a couple of conversations that took place when Europe went into lockdown with professionals from across Europe, that led to a lot of interesting insights. And so as Europeana tries to provide the best experience for researchers, educators, or even creators that navigate the more than 50 million digitized items of cultural heritage that are available through Europeana collections, we also work hard to support the needs of the sector. Next slide, please, Antonella. And so I wanted to start by highlighting the mission of Europeana, which says that Europeana empowers the cultural heritage sector in its digital transformation. We develop expertise, tools, and policies to embrace digital change and encourage partnerships that foster innovation. We make it easier for people to use cultural heritage for education, research, creation, and recreation, and our work contributes to an open, knowledgeable, and creative society. Obviously, not only Europeana Foundation, but instead, as Antonella was mentioning, it's an initiative supported by three important pillars: the Aggregators Forum, the Network Association, and Europeana Foundation, together with its many partners in projects such as the ones that were described just now. But as you see, empowering the heritage sector in its digital transformation is really at the core of what Europeana does, as you can see in the first sentence of the mission. Next slide, please, Antonella. And the Europeana Strategy, published a couple of months ago, that goes from 2020 to 2025, has made building capacity for the heritage sector one of its three priorities, together with the two other priorities, which are strengthening the infrastructure and providing data quality. And under this priority, the Europeana initiative commits to support institutions in their digital transformation. It will showcase the importance and added value of digitization, adoption of standards, best practice, and common solutions. Next slide, please, Antonella. And so how are we actually currently building capacity across the sector? Next slide again. So we provide opportunities for institutions and individuals in the cultural heritage sector to develop their skills and practice. Next slide. The Europeana Network Association is a key player in this. It is our strong and democratic community of experts working in the field of digital cultural heritage and has over 3,000 members from all across Europe and beyond. It works through a range of task forces and working groups to address shared challenges, and is organized into 6 specialist communities focusing on communication, impact, education, copyright tech, and research. And within each of these communities, we are committed to making, sharing, promoting, and repurposing Europe's digital cultural heritage. Members of the Network Association do so by developing, validating, and implementing standards and frameworks that improve access and discovery, by using individual expertise to encourage innovation and foster cross-border and cross-domain collaboration, even by participating in the governance of the Europeana initiative in itself, or by promoting their activities within professional networks. Next slide, please. And so through the Europeana Network Association and through events, we make connections across the heritage sector, and this is, we believe, a clear way through which we can support professionals. In a survey conducted to measure the impact of this network association, 44% of Europeana Network members who responded to the survey considered membership to be important to their daily work because it allowed them precisely to make connections. In particular, they said that it allowed them to stay up to date with trends and knowledge, to learn information they can use for their work, and even to extend their professional network. Participants to another survey that tried to determine the impact of the Europeana conference in the sector, previously known as the AGM, also said that developing a network was the strongest outcome of their participation in the Europeana conference. And for past conferences, we also heard that some of the top benefits reported had been developing a wider network, meeting new contacts who became then project partners, and initiating new projects with the contacts they made through the event. Next slide, please. And so participants to the surveys also shared their thoughts. For instance, the fact that Europeana provided a lot of inspiration and knowledge, in this case, when this individual in question wanted to put collections online. Or next slide, participants also shared the fact that being connected to a broader network gives them more courage to do things because they feel like they are not alone or working in silos in this area. Next slide. So another important way through which Europeana hopes to be supporting the sector in building capacity is through knowledge sharing. Europeana Pro, our professional website, provides cultural heritage institutions and professionals with tools, resources, documentation, and opportunities for developing digital skills. Digital resources in response to the pandemic on Europeana Pro were viewed over 21,000 times in the first 13 weeks, so from March to the 10th of June. Next slide. Another important way through which Europeana supports the capacity building of the cultural heritage sector, and this is what I wanted to refer to, is something that the previous speakers exemplified through their presentations, is by building or facilitating the building of partnerships. So for instance, through our participatory campaign, just to mention another one, Europe at Work, and in particular through the collection days as well, Europeana supported ongoing processes of digital change by reinforcing the value of being more digital or inspiring further digitization. Or Europeana Tech, which is one of the communities within the Europeana Network Association, given its strong advocacy work in favor of the adoption of AAAF standards, has now created a much more diverse field of adopters of AAAF across Europe. Next slide. We have also been connecting professionals through webinars now more than ever to ensure that they have opportunities to learn from each other, even when they don't have the chance to meet face-to-face or traveling across Europe. So through these online conversations, we've been talking about copyright, education, impact, engaging audiences online, inclusivity, research, and sharing data. The results show us that the majority of participants found that their confidence levels in the specific topic that had been discussed increased after the webinar. Or for instance, through national workshops, participants worked to improve their data, and knowledge gathered there has been applied practically in the work of several CHIs. There is, however, a clear need still for more practical training on areas relating to the publication of digital heritage and barriers to change where Europeana can contribute directly and indirectly. For instance, trying to change mindsets, advocating, and developing case studies. Next slide, please. And the impact community, for instance, creates another set of tools that are another good way to support the sector. So just to name this example, the impact community has helped shape how we understand and deliver impact in the cultural heritage sector. It has been connecting cultural heritage professionals and experts across the world in the development of a playbook, a step-by-step approach to help institutions or individuals identify their impact. Next slide, Antonella. And so now I would just like to talk to you about some of the next steps after we've been learning from the crisis that we are living, of what Europeana intends to do to support the cultural heritage sector. So over the past years, the sector has been understanding the importance of appropriate licensing, of adopting standards such as IIIF, as I was mentioning, or even of collaborating with platforms such as Wikipedia. But even with all that, were we really ready for the crisis that we are facing? Data showed that our museums very quickly rose to the challenge when the pandemic broke out and their doors closed. 60% of museums increased their online activity overnight, but only 13.4% of the museums increased their investments in digital. And many people or on staff were overnight asked to take on a responsibility that they had no background or skills on. Next slide, Antonella, thank you. So at Europeana, we tried to quickly adapt our editorial strategy and started curating editorial relevant to the situation, which resulted in popular galleries such as galleries on topics such as masks and face coverings, the great indoors, or washing your hands. And this was substantiated by an enormous increase in public interest in culture. We couldn't get enough of it, locked down in our homes with little to do. Next slide, please. And so given that we are living a crucial moment for the heritage sector and its digital transformation, we decided to consult again our network. Over the course of 3 weeks, we conducted peer-to-peer conversations with 64 professionals from 22 different countries and various backgrounds. We asked them the questions, how do you see the future? And what do you know now that you wished you had known when the crisis began? Just to name a couple of examples of the questions that were discussed during these workshops. And the results, which are available now in a long report, which we will slowly turn into more digestible versions. The results led to some very personal and insightful conversations, which we have now bundled in this report that you can download on the website of Europeana. And the report will definitely influence the work of Europeana in the years to come. In the meantime, I would like to share with you just 3 main takeaways of these conversations. Next slide, please. First of all, we need to recognize that there are digital divides to overcome. These divides can be social and technological, as well as between those who can access, are represented and feel welcome by digital cultural heritage and those who don't. The divide runs also between countries and regions who have well-articulated digital strategies and infrastructure in place and those who don't. It runs also between institutions that have differing levels of digital capacity and capabilities. And digital divides are about our processes as much as systems and about people as much as hardware. Next slide, please.
Sorry, Ariadna.
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but it's very interesting, the whole of your presentation, but we need also to conclude because otherwise the next speaker will not have enough time for its presentation, for her presentation. Sorry to interrupt you.
No worries. Maybe then just one last minute. Participants talked about soft skills as well. And there is a strong desire for change in the sector, but a sense of inability to act on it. So, and then finally, what you're seeing now, there was a strong influence on the, a strong consensus on the fact that collaboration is needed, and that the GLAM sector should be thought of as one big company. So the pandemic has shown that our sector has the right reflexes and that it is willing to be able to contribute to the recovery of Europe in many fundamental ways. We can argue that never before our cultural heritage has had more potential to support a fundamentally open and creative society. But the cultural sector now needs to make some changes or be in danger of getting left behind, and this needs to be supported by Europeana and national strategies and substantial funding. So that's everything from me. Thank you all for listening. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And I think that in particular, part of your presentation was very attracting, inspiring. I think the idea that the cultural sector, and in particular the digital culture, is one big company is fascinating. Personally, I trust this idea since several times. We still don't have this company, but we must accelerate the process towards this one big company, and Europeana has a strong role to play. Well, thank you very much, Europeana and Ariadna, for her talk. We move to the last but not least presentation. You already heard talking about Sofie. Sofie is a curator of many interesting exhibitions and galleries and editorials are published in Europeana and in the connected spaces, digital and physical. Sofie, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Antonella. Would it be possible for you to unshare the screen so that I can show mine? Thank you.
Okay, done.
Thank you so much. Okay, is it showing the presentation at the moment?
It is loading. Yes, now
it's there, right? Good morning, everyone. I'm very happy to be able to put down the cornerstone to this workshop in which you've heard about different user engagement strategies so far. Marinos included the collection days that we had in Cyprus, also some co-creative activity, because we made some interactive showcases there together. From Fred, you heard about end users participating in the cultural heritage experience through educational formulas, for instance, this Mooc that he demonstrated. And then with Ariadna, we heard how Europeana is empowering CHIs to increase user engagement strategies, but also directly interacts with its end users by, for instance, providing innovative storytelling formats and participatory editorials. What I want to do in this final slot is focusing on a very specific type of end user engagement, namely crowdsourcing. And I'm going to do it by applying it to one of the projects in which KU Leuven, Photoconsortium, and Europeana are currently involved. That is to say, Pagode. Pagode, or Europeana China, is dedicated to lending more visibility and increasing interaction with China-related collections in Europeana. What I'm going to tell you is a journey, actually, from metadata to storytelling and back, in which a community becomes an actor in the digital transformation process. On the one hand, he gains an enhanced heritage experience, and on the other hand, the user empowers the collection owners with better data and more opportunities for an intensified interaction. Now, let me kick this off with telling you a little story. It's a story that happened in real to myself and my colleagues in the Pagoda project, when a few months ago we were producing a website because we wanted people to be able to follow the project. And on the landing page, we posted this beautiful image, a Europeana image of a pagoda that was taken from a set of pictures collected by a very famous German glass slide collector called Karl Simon. And this particular slide was packed in a box that was titled Reise nach China, so travel to China. So we used it for this website because United Archives is also one of the partners in the project. And we started to get a lot of reactions from colleagues and from people visiting the website who recognized that this is actually not a Chinese pagoda, but a Japanese castle. After all the trouble we took and all the diligence that we applied to not misappropriate any heritage in the name of Europeana China, to do our research, we are working with sinologists in this project, we still kind of stumbled upon this little bump in the road because of the metadata. The metadata we're telling us is taken from a box called Reise nach China. We now suspect, of course, that the Karl Simon, who was using these glass slides to give presentations on educational subjects, we now think that he just slipped in this picture of a Japanese castle to extend his presentation a little bit, because in the end, who would have known back in the days in the 1920s what China looked like and what Japan looked like? Now, what I'm doing here is by no means do I want to scrutinize United Archives and their metadata practices, because to be honest, they are so similar in, I think, more than 90, perhaps even more % of the cultural heritage institutions. This is still very much a manual process, so it's a faulty process and it's a limited process. You cannot research every single object. You cannot double check every single fact or figure that is given with a certain object and that you consider to be valid metadata. And in this respect, what I find interesting are the opportunities offered by artificial intelligence and innovative technological tools, because they really help to multiply metadata, to improve and to refine metadata, and thereby they support storytelling. I think I don't have to explain to anybody here in this workshop how important for cultural heritage storytelling has become. We can see clearly in the statistics of Europeana that people are so much more attracted to exploring, to browsing, to engaging with cultural heritage when there is a good story that actually brings the heritage to them. Now, for curators such as myself, it's only possible to tell stories if you have the metadata to do so, or to at least to send you on a trip for researching. So if you ask me, it is well worth to invest in building metadata capacity, applying artificial intelligence and innovative tools. Now, one of the tools that we have tried and tested is called With Crowd. With Crowd allows you to profit from the wisdom of the crowd, trying to leverage on all different kinds of knowledge, because in your crowd you will have experts on heritage. You will also have people who are perhaps just interested but not specialized in a specific domain. But you need all those layers of metadata to improve the search process and to empower the storytelling process. What you also do is you profit of the capacity of people to read images in a way that artificial intelligence still cannot do. This is what the platform looks like, Crowd Heritage. You can deploy here a campaign with any choice of images in your digital repository, and especially in Europeana. You can ask users to look at pictures and to tag them, so you kind of add annotations or you upvote annotations that are already there. Every time you are given 1 or 2 points, as you can see on the left, there are some badges to win, gold, silver, and bronze, which is really, really fun. It adds this gamification aspect. And as you can see, in the case of Pagode, we have an incredible result already. The campaign has been live for not even a month. And instead of the 4,000 annotations that we aimed for, we are now at over 8,000. So I am definitely going to expand this campaign. I'm also encouraging you to visit this website, to try out this platform. You just have to briefly log in and you can start tagging pictures. And of course, in the end, all the information goes back to Europeana and goes back to the end user. Stay tuned to Pagode. Visit the platform Crowd Heritage and see if you can work your way to the top of the rankings. And certainly come and take another look in spring 2021, because then we are deploying a second crowdsourcing campaign. And of course, we're going to try to crush our target numbers once again. This was a very, very quick introduction. Reach out to me or visit the Photoconsortium Pagode website if you want to know more. And thank you all for being here. I think for the finalization of this workshop, I'll happily hand over the floor again once more to Antonella.
Thank you so much, Sophie. It is fascinating to listen to your presentations because you are able to connect the technological efforts that we are doing in improving solutions that are based on technology with storytelling. That is the experience that we are looking for as people. So thank you very much, very clear and very inspiring. I see that in the question and answers, there is another question to you about storytelling. So I think it would be nice if you can reply to Yvonne. We have arrived to the end of the time that was allocated to our workshop. We thank you, Marinos, very much for the two roles as a speaker in our workshop and as a host of this workshop in Euromed 2020. I think that the experience of Euromed 2020 is successful again, even if limited. We are suffering not to be all together in Cyprus. But we will be soon again traveling and meeting and hugging and kissing each other. Thank you very much, and participate in the crowdsourcing campaign for the annotation of the Chinese contents. Follow us on Photoconsortium. It will be a pleasure to stay in contact. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, Antonella, for your contribution. Thanks to all the panelists, Fred, Sophie, and of course from Europeana. It was a pleasure to have you with us together, and of course to work with you together. Thank you very, very much.